Hey there, everybody. How's it going? So obviously I took a trip, and I will tell you this. If Google Maps says it's 8 hours, it's going to be about 12. Because you stop for lunch and dinner and the rest of it and get gasoline, etc., etc. So took a trip to Jackson, Wyoming, and checked out the Tetons, and it was interesting. And I will tell you this, I am not sure that that is my most productive use of my photographic time, because the point is you know, just having a few days a year in front of some majestic location, that's not as important as having great conditions wherever you are. I mean, the most important thing in landscape photography is the weather. And timing being where you want to be when the weather is the way you want it to be, that's a tough one, you know. So all the great photographs of the Tetons that you see, those people kind of live there. I mean, they have galleries there and stuff, and I get that. And so it becomes very difficult when you're, you know, a drive-by landscape photographer. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, you know, that's the way it is. So and that lesson was proven this week. You know, 1 or 2 days, 2 or 3 days in the Tetons is not enough. I will say that there's nothing in the equipment. It's amazing how good. What's really interesting is ever since I switched over to the OM system, I just keep using the word amazing a lot. And it really is. And I mean, my photography, my end goal is to make those 8x8 fine art prints, black and white. And, you know, but the system, so why am I obsessed with the resolution? Well, because, you know, you want to make sure that you can do it. And then, you know, you have the wiggle room to make the art. You don't want to waste a whole week in a car going somewhere and then get awesome epic light and your gear isn't up for it, and you find that out when after you wasted all your time and effort, right? So it's kind of unproven. I will say one thing: this modern OM systems gear, the sensors, I don't know what they did. Maybe it's the software has improved, maybe the sensors have improved, maybe it's a little of both or a lot of both. And I'm not saying that Micro Four Thirds was bad 10 years ago. I really enjoyed using it. But there was a gap between Micro Four Thirds and APS-C or full frame. And I saw that probably right away. As much as I enjoyed shooting, I think it was the EM1 Mark II. Loved that camera, loved shooting with it. But the image quality was okay. It wasn't blowing me away. And APS-C or full frame was clearly better back then. And nowadays, there's no, I don't see that anymore. I think it's maybe the software improved, the DxO algorithms and whatever else. Something's changed, because Micro Four Thirds is swinging right up there. Maybe it's the sweet spot now, because let's take a look at this. And people are always saying, you know, Micro Four Thirds. The guys over at Petapixel said that Micro Four Thirds is stuck at 20 megapixels. We need more megapixels. A 20 megapixel Micro Four Thirds sensor has the pixel density of an 80 megapixel full frame camera. Let that sink in. Really, I mean, how many more, like, diffraction is a thing. And you definitely, the operative word at this point, or words, is diminishing returns. 20 megapixels is where it's at. Like, I don't want 160 meg. If they went to 30 megapixels on a Micro Four Thirds sensor, the pixel density would be equal to 160 megapixel full frame camera. That's ridiculous. Okay, how are you going to shoot when diffraction starts at F2.8? It makes no sense. Like, you can only, the physics limits you. You can only push that so far. And then you say to yourself, well, I can get a full frame camera. It's 100 megapixels. I'm looking forward to that. Why? What do you need it for? Where are you going? Okay, let me show you some prints. Where the hell are the prints? So the morning when I shot the Tetons, I went out there and I was trying all kinds of stuff. I mean, multiple bracketing and underexposed and overexposed. They're going to push them together into HDR and all this nonsense. And to be honest with you, that's not the way I shoot. Okay, I shoot one shot and that's it. So this is, I gotta back up. So this is a panoramic from a Micro Four Thirds, the OM1 Mark II. This is a 22-inch, so 21-inch wide panoramic. Okay, cropped from a single non-high-res, a 20 megapixel file. This is the raw file. And this was cropped out of that, and I printed this, and it couldn't be any better, and if it was, nobody would care. So this is a 20 megapixel Micro Four Thirds straight shot in camera, no high res, no computational modes, nothing. And I brought it into DxO, processed the raw, printed this out. If it were a better shot, it's a boring shot. I got nothing in the foreground. It's just a field. So, I mean, it's just the mountains. And so, you know, it's not, this is really just for test. But my point is like, if this had been epic and, you know, whatever, I guess maybe it is kind of a little epic, but the point is like Micro Four Thirds can do a panoramic from a single frame, non-high res, and you can print it at least 21 inches wide, and it's fine. So very happy with that. No worries. I mean, maybe it's the sweet spot. I don't know. Maybe the lenses are better or something. Maybe there was no image stabilization because I was on a very heavy tripod. So let's see, what else do I got for you here? Okay. And here is the Molten Barn. And that's in color. And that's, again, a test shot. And that's the full nut there. Again, not a high-res shot. No dynamic range, anything. This is just a straight shot. I did bracket this, and what I did is I took the exposure that allowed me to bring up the shadows and bring down the highlights a bit to get, but what I probably should have done here, instead of screwing around with the bracketing, I probably should have used the built-in graduated neutral density filter. But it doesn't matter. I still got the shot, and it still turned out okay. But you know, this is just what can the camera do? What can the format do? Micro Four Thirds. Well, it can make a 17 by 22 almost. I mean, it's real close. That's the size of the paper. So you be the judge. Here's the same thing in black and white. Okay, and there it is. I mean, you know, yeah, it's that would do it. So, fair enough. And then there's this shot, which I shot at the Columbia River Gorge. And this was shot with a 10-year-old 16 megapixel Lumix G7 with the 14 to 42 kit lens. The whole camera and the kit was like $400. And that's a crop, and that's at least a 16 by 16, and image quality wise, not composition, and that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm not trying to compare myself to Michael Kenna in terms of that. But what I'm talking about is I saw some of his big prints that he was charging like 10 and 15 grand for at that gallery show back in December. This is technically better. Okay, his big prints, they weren't that sharp. You know, they're darkroom prints from Hasselblad, but you know, this is technically a better print. This is Micro Four Thirds, no hocus pocus, no computational anything, just a straight 16 megapixel crop down about 13 megapixels, printed 16 by 16. There's nothing in it these days. There just isn't. And so, I mean, you know, I think what it is it's perception, because you spend $5 grand on a full frame camera and a lens, you know it's supposed to do it. So you go out, it does it, and you go, oh, it did it. Okay. You get yourself an APS-C camera and a good lens, and you go out and you're like, well, yeah, that's not bad, but you don't expect it. You know, you wonder how good is it? And then you go micro four thirds, and because everybody's, you know, so busy, or maybe because, you know, 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't as good as it is today. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying it's definitely better than it was. Or maybe the software, again, I don't know what the reason is, but this stuff is totally capable. And I'm not just saying good enough. I mean, it's as good as it can get, or that I would want it to be. And I'm picky. So, you know, where are we going with all this? Like, how many megapixels do you need? The Fuji APS-C 40 megapixel sensor is equivalent to a 90 megapixel full frame. How many pixels do you need? You know, and you don't even need a 40 megapixel full frame. So, you know, the trip to Jackson was more of a vacation kind of a thing, and I figured, well, we'll get some photography in, and I did, and it was fun. But yeah, you know, the more I do photography, the less I'm into these like honeypot locations, the less I'm into these grand landscapes. I much more prefer, you know, more interesting, intimate kind of photography. So again, things are changing, whatever. You adapt with what you adapt to. What I really want to photograph is moody, cloudy, rainy, that kind of thing. And unfortunately, that's not the weather that I find myself photographing in too frequently. It just doesn't, I'd love to photograph in fog. I love foggy, the atmospheric conditions. And it's, for some reason, it has always eluded me. But anyway, again, I'm not trying to continue the Micro Four Thirds apology tour, but because it's just stupid at this point. There's nothing in it. It's just, it's great stuff. Of the three cameras I have, the OM1 is great, but I'm not as familiar with it as I am with the Fuji. So when I was out there photographing the mountains and the wind was blowing and it was cold, and I was like, how do I, you know, how do you do stuff? And it's like, I want to do this, I want to do that, and you're trying to figure it out. So I'm sure that'll come, because it's a very straightforward camera. I do prefer the interface on the EM5 Mark II and the OM3. And of the three cameras, the OM3 is probably the best user interface. Okay, so I wish the OM3 had a few, was more professional like the OM1 Mark II, but I think it's just a familiarity thing. What's interesting is the OM3 and the EM5 Mark II kind of have the same layout, and it's really, really good. The user interface is excellent, and it's perfected on the OM3. But the EM1 Mark II is a completely different interface, and so don't get me wrong, it's not as, doesn't seem as logically laid out, to be honest with you. And so, because the OM3 is really perfection. If OM Systems could somehow adapt the EM5 Mark II and the OM3 interface into the EM1 Mark III, that would be interesting. I mean, the 4 buttons around, but I don't know. It's just a matter of getting used to it again, is what it comes down to. Anyway, so that's what I've been up to, and those are some observations of actually trying to use this stuff in the field. The images that I did get, the image quality is absolutely superb. The conditions weren't exactly cooperating, etc. I can make all kinds of excuses, but it wasn't the gear that let me down. So that's the takeaway. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Please subscribe. It's what you can do to help out a small channel, and small channels need all the help they can get. And check out my Patreon page, because things are really zipping around over there, and we're having a good time. And there's lots of content, even for free members, and it's growing all the time. And I'm really adding to it, and it's a wonderful thing. So, and thank you to all my Patreon supporters also. It's greatly appreciated. All right, there it is. I'll roll in the images from the trip, and you can check them out at the end of the video here. And we'll see you out there. Have a great one.